And could you please make your presentation by 8:55? Yeah. Actually, not to interfere with your presentation, time limit sign will be on the chatting space or through DM. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, as I mentioned before, the last presentation will be also made online. The presenters are Andreas Blümel from Humboldt University of Berlin and Nobu Goto from Toyo Universities. They are going to talk about applying the MC system to adjunct. Please, warm welcome. Could you start?
Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes. So, thank you for the opportunity for us to present online here. We presented this work previously at the occasion of the ICC, the Encontro di Generativa Grammatica, in February this year, which was a celebration of Andreas' recent book, which also contains the Miracle Creed paper, and on various other occasions, including English linguistics and workshop at Goto University, as well as the Freie Universität Berlin. So our aim here is to interpret Chomsky's recent system, the MC system here abbreviated, and show how the notion adjunct derives from this system based on a reasonable, what we think is a reasonable assumption for the conceptual textual interface. Basically, external merge into an automatic position is what underlies the descriptive notion of an adjunct, and we can dispense with any special operation for adjuncts. Now, at the core of this framework is principle T here in this box. All relations and structure building operations are all related with semantic properties interpreted as the CI system. So that's principle T, and we try to squeeze out of that principle as much as possible. Now, the core semantic properties are expressed in the duality of semantics, which we abbreviate here with EOS. So external merge provides theta structures, whereas internal merge provides discourse information-related structures. So that's the kind of the more concrete implementation of principle T, now applying to the dichotomy between external and internal merge. Now, the interpretive functions at the CN, the sensory motor interface, correlate with EM and IM, basically. And furthermore, the MC system draws a very coarse correlation between external merge and a number of other properties. So external merge correlates basically with propositional structures, that's theta structures, yielding A positions, informally speaking. Now, internal merge yields clausal structures, and I presume you are now familiar with these notions, yielding a bar position, again, informally speaking. Now, one crucial ingredient, or so our interpretation goes, of this system is configurational data theory, which we here abbreviate CTT. That's the representational aspect of data theory. So in the products of an external merge, we have structural configurations which correspond to thematic roles. The complement of big P is correlated with the theme or patient and the like, whereas the spec of, again, informally speaking, because we have the notion of specifier, informally speaking, the spec of little bp corresponds to the interpretation agent and the like. Now, thematic roles are made of these structural representations of the related element. Furthermore, argument structure has a derivation effect, and that's the external merge part. That's the one part of the duality of semantics. So essentially, the system plays around with this, with the argument structure and the representational aspect of argument structure. And that's where the action comes about. Now we have this restriction here, again, a crucial point. Internal merge is restricted to theta mark element. Only these are eligible for IAM, imposing a very tight restriction on where internal merge can apply at all, and we would like to capitalize on this restriction as well. MC states internal merge, quote, carries the derivation from the propositional argument to the domain to the causal domain of discourse properties, establishing a segregation between the descriptive domain A and A bar. Now let us look into the way this works. We have first of all an illustration of where duality of semantics is compliant. So we have external merge into theta position. Say in a sentence like Mary sees Bill, we have Bill being NP1, Mary being NP2, and then we have the verb see. External merge of NP1 to the complement position of the B delivers a theta position, thus duality of semantics, and the representation of theta theory are in concord. 2 gives you the derivation. First, B and NP undergo external merge. That's again in compliance with duality of semantics insofar as the NP1 reaches its position by EM rather than IM. Then we merge little b. Next, we externally merge NP2 as shown in 2C. Again, in compliance with duality of semantics insofar as the specifier of little bp is a thematic position, and NP2 reaches this position by external merge. So no conflict arises here. Things are harmonic, as it were. NP2, furthermore, is part of the subsequent phase, and there is some thoughts to be had on this, because the send NP2 and NP1 are part of distinct phases. They are also interpreted as repetitions rather than copies, in a sentence like Mary sees Mary. Now, how about violations of the duality of semantics? That's illustrated here in the next section, 2.2. Internal merge of the NP2, the NP1 into the spec of the little bp yields a representation like before. So, for example, suppose you want to derive a simple little UH question like 3, who did Mary see? First, we have NP1, which is who, and now the crucial innovation here is that NP2 can likewise be an instance of this who. That is internal merged into the theta position. Let's show it for. Now, evidently, this violates the duality of semantics insofar as we want merger into theta position only by way of externally merging, of drawing something from the workspace. Internal merge into the theta position is illegitimate in this sense, so we have a violation of the duality of semantics. Now, the suggestion in MP is now that this is repairable. NP2 here is immune to the theta marking because it was introduced into this thematic position in the wrong mode, maybe by internal merge. And the resolution of this conflict now is what's metaphorically termed as boxed. Boxing is nothing more than a name for that conflict and basically for the resolution of that conflict. NP2 is immune. So even though spec of little bp is a thematic position, NP2 is immune because it must be immune because it was introduced into this position by IM rather than EM. So we have this conflict here shown in this box below. IM into NP2 into the theta position violates the duality of semantics. The resolution is that NP2 has special properties. It's boxed, it's immune to theta role assignment. So duality of semantics in some sense wins out or trumps over the configuration of theta theory. It's because NP2 entered the thematic position by IM. The position changes its status in various respects, namely it changes from being thematic to non-thematic, it changes from being in a position B to a as being an AR position changes from being propositional to being clausal. Now, as a consequence of this, the set NP2 and little pp is thematically still unsaturated. Follows now that once we externally merge an NP into the outer specifier now of this structure, this thematically interpreted. Furthermore, internally merging NP2 has the interpretive consequence that NP1 gets phonologically deleted and NP2 box, that is, its configurational data role is suspended in this position, but remains to be discharged for the next duality of semantics compliant external merger into that position, into that external spec position of little d. And in this way, there is no way to generate a sentence like sticks to be the Merriam herself, basically because the sentence violates data theory. Now let's consider duality of semantics compliance. Again, here again we have external merger to the data position. So suppose so now what we want to do here is introduce the external argument. Basically, H shows you the continuation of the violation that you had in 5. So in 5, you have the violation and the repair by boxing. The consequence of the immunity of NP2 to the theta marking, the theta role kind of shifts up one level higher. NP3 is introduced by external merge into the NP2 little pp structure. That's compliant with duality of semantics. And so we interpret the NP3 as the agent, say. And that's the way we then get who did I receive, or the experiences, say, of the C. So NP2 little bp by external merger interpreted as plus thematic, since the data role of the box element goes to the next available XP, which is introduced in compliance with the duality of semantics. In this sense, the configurational data theory is not static, and the thematic roles are not defined once and for all, that they can be altered derivationally. In 8, the initially thematic position in the inner spec of the little bp shifts to be non-thematic since NP2 enters the derivation by IM rather than EM in violation of DOS. And consequently, EM of NP3 occupies the derivatively thematic position in the outer spec of little bp. Now, there is something to say about the copy relation. I would like to skip this here in the interest of time. Now let's consider briefly what the theory has to say about WH movement languages for, say, English. C consults according to this view the box element, informally speaking, box element for the externalization of the spec of CP. So here in 11, what you see is we have introduced by external merge this C head. Now that's the one that is clausal, presumably lexically clausal, because it's introduced by external merge. But in any event, that is the one element that is that consults boxed material. Now it's NP2, which is boxed. That's in the clausal domain. It's a clausal head associated or accesses clausal material, and that's the boxed element here. Now, how about BPP? Well, let's consider 12B and 12D here. We have external merge. We have to apply internal merge to the external argument here in NP3. That is in a thematic position, the outer edge of little bp, and presumably we have to apply internal merge to that NP3 to IM into the spec of info. A very drastic consequence of this picture is that in C external merge and succession that follows from the system straightforwardly because internal merge is restricted to thematically role elements that are theta marked. Now, given that box material is not theta marked by definition, it follows that box material cannot undergo IM. So there is no successive cyclic IM. And it follows that the evidence in favor of successive cyclic movement must be reinterpreted in some fashion and delegated to externalization and interpretation at successive phase heads, each of which in the ongoing derivation then accesses the boxed element. So we will here not dwell on this, but rather focus on adjuncts. The system gives us a certain gap. Let's ask first of all the kind of fundamental question: what kind of system will language be within the absence of modifiers or adjuncts? If anything, we would have to resort to paractactic expressions to express something like Mary sleeps deeply. We're choosing adverbs here as a case in point, but similar reasoning applies, of course, to attributive adjectives and other conceivable adjuncts. So we would need some sort of paractactic strategy to express what adjuncts are giving us. So, for example, Mary sleeps deeply would have to be recast or paraphrased as Mary sleeps, the sleep is deep, and so on. And the same is true for other adjuncts. Now, evidently, adjuncts give us something very powerful in this sense because it makes the means of expression or expressiveness much kind of more economical and more dense. So it broadens the notion of adjunct, broadens the means of expressiveness that the CI system in personal communication terms can suggest that principle T is loose enough so that adjuncts could be included, taking modification to be within the broader category of extended data roles, including predication. So we're adopting the notion ETR, extended data roles, which entails the differentiation between what we might call the core thematic roles and ETRs themselves. So we have the core ones, typically associated with obligatorious, and we have the extended data roles associated with the optional, with the adjuncts. So this distinction is not completely without problems, and in the footnote here we have indications. So it's very good work by Andreas pointing in various problems for this distinction, but we still adopt it here in an effort to explore the system further and understand better these basic differences. So elements occupying extended data role positions are by definition not thematic. Since the positions which they occupy do not receive the core thematic role. So here's our definition in this box. Externally merging an element into non-data position is possible provided this element bears an extended data conforming to principle T. So let us take a look at some of the consequences here. When we try to externally merge something into a non-thematic position, this is evidently a violation of the duality of semantics. So let's take a look at 14. What did Mary clearly see here? Clearly is an adjunct. It's an adverb phrase. We call it expedia simply for exposition. Now, let's assume, as before, that what is in P2. Furthermore, that Mary is in P3, occupying plus thematic position, which has been shifted to the outer specifier. Now we have an even further outer specifier, which is the XP. Now, given that representationally there is a unique theta role for the spec of little BP, and since MP3 is the element that has been introduced into the derivation by external merge in compliance with the duality of semantic, that's the data receiver. Given that that XP, but there is no data role left, and it follows that XP occupies a position which is non-thematic. Now, evidently, this is a violation of the duality of semantics because we want external merge to be associated with the discharging of data roles, and so this violation comes at a cost. We, just for exposition here and stick to the convention of boxing, even though this is highly misleading in some sense. There is no immunity here because XP need not be immune to anything. It's a non-thematic position, but we stick to that convention. That's not taking, it's just, think of it as something that can violate the duality of semantics. This is what this box expresses in 60. Now, since the thematic potential of the VP is exhausted, there is no configuration of data role available, and so XP occupies a non-theta position. XP's derivational mode into the structure is EM. So we have a conflict again, and it follows then that the XP here isn't in a bar position. It's non-thematic, it's causal, and furthermore, it doesn't contribute to labor. So just as the box element in NP2 here does not contribute to labeling, the XP does likewise not contribute to labeling. There is one kind of passing remark in the MC paper that talks briefly and really just in passing about labeling, and it still has been unclear to us why it exactly is that there is no labeling here. I mean, by the system and problems of projection, we can tell why there is no projection because it's an XP-YP configuration. But the deeper question is really, why does the system tolerate it? Why is it the case that we can have unlabeled objects here? But be that as it may, it must be the case that the XP doesn't contribute to labeling, whereas we want to, at the end of the day, we want to interpret the structure as a little baby. That's the label we want. Notice that we haven't used merge or any comparable operations such as late merge to identify XP as an adjunct. It just falls out of the system without further assumption. Adjunction can thus be eliminated from the inventory of syntactic operation. We just need merge, external merge into non-thematic position. So there's an important expert theoretic precursors along these lines, say Lusick and Zayu's work, and who use substitution throughout, and of course, Keynes and Symmetry, who uses adjunction throughout. And now we have basically the counterpart of substitution. So what are some consequences? Let's go into this. In Ernst's work, he summarizes Chomsky's stance of adjuncts, who, quote, outlines the way in which adverbials are from adjoining to semantically active maximal projections, such as VP, but are allowed to attach to aggregate or IP. Now, in the current system, this kind of interpretation follows from the constraints we have imposed. Take a look at 17. Here we have a structure with the inner specifier YP, the outer specifier XP, and let Z be the little d for the sake of the argument. Now, if both XP and YP are introduced by external merge, YP will inevitably be interpreted as the agent, whereas XP will inevitably be interpreted as the adjunct. Because, by the time XP merges, YP will be interpreted, and so the structure will then henceforth not be semantically active in Ernst's sense. Now, suppose that XP is interpreted by EM and IP interpreted by IM. In this case, IP will be interpreted as the WH phrase or a topic, whereas XP will be interpreted contingent on the position. So if you take a look at 18 here through 23, that paradigm, in the A examples, we have the high subject-oriented or speaker-oriented interpretation, while the low positions correspond to manner readings. So roughly the plan will fail because they're all inexperienced. Here roughly is the speaker's estimate, whereas she laid out the plan roughly is the manner of laying out the plan. That's the manner of the laying out here that is rough, not the speaker's estimation. Now, such a dependency of the semantic interpretation is unexpected if the A examples were somehow derived from the B examples by term merge. It follows that, we can state now that the A examples are each derived by externally merging the adverbs in these positions, and that will be consistent with the restriction that adjuncts cannot undergo either. Of course, all of that raises the question, how can we deduce something like 24 when the numbers show up? Here, we again resort to that idea that C consults box material, clausal material. Adjuncts are by definition clausal, they're non-thematic positions, and so they're accessible for C head for WH movement. So 24 is the result of externalizing when in the spec of C, whereas syntactically it occupies the non-thematic base-generated externally merged position in the WP. One extension on accusatives here, 25, these are falling slowly. We start the derivation of a sentence like this with externally merging an NP in the complement position of big D. We assume that the specifier of little d is non-thematic. And when we externally merge an XP into this position in the spec of little bp here, that's a violation of the duality of semantics insofar as external merge doesn't yield a data role. And as before, we assume that this then qualifies as an A bar position. The XP occupies an A bar position. It's non-thematic, it's clausal, and so that will be the way in which we can derive an unaccusative structure along the lines of 25. Okay. I read 3 minutes ago that I have still 3 minutes. Sorry.
It's over. Now we seems to be out of time.
Yeah.
Right, out of time.
Okay.